You're listening to the Passionista podcast, episode number 25. Welcome to the Passionista podcast, where we believe that passion is everything. I'm Lindsay Nadler, empowerment coach and leader of the Passionista community. Here on the podcast, you'll find inspiring stories of women who've turned their passion into a reality, as well as the best coaching tips and resources so you can do the same and walk out your calling with confidence. All right, Passionista, let's get to it. Well, hello, Passionista. I am really excited about today's episode because I want to give you an insight on what the mindset is of a leader. So it doesn't matter if you own your own business, you are an employee, you are a stay-at-home mom, wherever you are. If you listen to the last episode on Leadership 101, then you know that you're a leader because you have a certain measure of influence. So now what I want to talk with you about is the mindset. So how leaders think. So in the last episode, we really talked about like the attributes of the best leaders, what they do, like actions. So if you didn't listen to that one, for sure, go check that out. But in this episode, we're going to talk about how leaders think, because your mindset is everything. You are going to move in the direction of your most dominant thought. Our thoughts create our feelings create our actions. And many times our thoughts and our feelings also create our words, and our words create our world. So there is a reason that we're told over and over and over to be transformed by the way that we think, to renew our minds, to think on what is real and authentic and lovely and right. And over and over, the Bible tells us, God tells us, to change the way that we think. And as a leader, it is imperative, if you want to increase your influence and lead well, that you are diligent in what you think. Are you aware? Do you practice self-awareness in what you think about? It's thinking of what you think about and taking every thought captive. One of my favorite pastors, Bill Johnson, has this quote, and he says, "You cannot afford to have a thought about you that God does not have about you." And so what I really feel like is a simple definition for renewing your mind is choosing God's thoughts towards you. And that, my friend, can get really, really dicey because a lot of us don't believe that God thinks good things towards us. We're afraid of God, or we think he's going to punish us, or he's far away and distant, or he's like this white bearded dude in a robe in the sky waiting for you to screw up, or that he's punishing you, or that he's not good. And I feel like when we really get connected to an intimate relationship with him and we understand that he is perfect love, and he thinks perfect, loving, graceful thoughts towards us. Like at the end of the day, love won the game. Love is winning. And so we have a choice every day, like you've heard me talk about over and over on the podcast and in my courses, is that the choice is between love or fear. And you have a choice every day as to which one you partner with. And the one you partner with is what you're going to empower. What you focus on grows. So today I want to talk about how leaders think, and I want to challenge you to be diligent in what you're meditating on. What are you focusing on? What are the thoughts that are going through your brain? And more importantly, what are you doing with those thoughts? Are you taking them captive? Are you aware of what you're believing to be true? Because we have tons and tons of thoughts, but a belief is when you assign truth to a certain thought that you're having. And it's interesting how when we can be diligent, when we can be intentional about what we think, how our life changes. What we behold, we become. What we think about, we create. And so if there's anything that I can impart to you, is to get your mind right. Get rid of the stinking thinking. And we're going to talk about some easy ways to do that today. And I also want to talk with you about how leaders think. So, none of us, I don't really feel like, grow up understanding leadership. I don't really feel like leadership is taught in schools today. I think that we hear a lot of talk about success and being a successful individual, but not a lot is taught about the leadership component of that. And I just believe that if we begin to teach our children, if we begin to show the world from a very young age that every single person is a leader, and it's something that we can always grow in because we can always increase our influence, then our world will really change. So here's how leaders think. And these are I'm just going to rattle off some of life lessons that I've learned. My first introduction to leadership, I had no real concept of what leadership was. Um, Based on how I was raised and all of the things that I had gone through, my worldview, I didn't understand what true leadership was, what servant leadership was. I kind of saw a lot of people around me that were successful, but weren't necessarily leaders, and became successful through pulling themselves up by their bootstraps or being dominant or whatever. I didn't really understand leadership, and I didn't understand how to respect leadership. So I got introduced to this concept of leadership when I joined a direct sales company, and I was blown away I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the standard. Like, these people are incredible human beings. And man, like it was like eating a big piece of humble pie, because I was like, I've got a lot to grow in when it comes to leadership. I've got a lot to learn here. And it was so amazing to me because I was just enthralled about how these leaders served and loved people well, how they carried themselves, and how their life looked. And certainly nobody's got it all together. Nobody's got it all figured out. But what I've learned from being around the best leaders in the world in a variety of different arenas is that their mindset is different. All right. So first, the mindset of a leader is rooted in optimism, abundance, and is always looking for how can we get it done. So they are solution-oriented individuals. So I want you to look at whatever the issue is that you're experiencing in your business, your workplace, your home, whatever the sphere of influence that you're in right now, and look at what are the areas that you are only focused on the problem. And that's all that's continuing, because that's all you're focused on. What we focus on grows. So do you say things like, oh, well, that's too hard, or, oh, that'll never change, or you just don't understand what kind of business I'm in, or you just, people just don't get how hard this is. Listen, of course it's hard. If it wasn't hard, it wouldn't change you. And that's the point. So as leaders, we've got to always be looking like and understanding abundance, which means God is perfect love. I believe there's more than enough of everything. There's plenty of money. There's plenty of time. There's plenty of resources. There's plenty of people. There's plenty of new clients. There are plenty of solutions. Let's find the solution that will solve the problem and help us achieve the vision that we've set for ourselves. So, are you a problem-focused person, or are you a solution-focused person? And with that being said, leaders don't complain a whole lot because they're looking for the solution, because complaining about it is only perpetuating the problem. So they're looking for how to make things better constantly. They're appreciating what they have, and they understand abundance. So they don't buy into any type of excuses. Well, that can't be done, or that's too hard, or that's a waste of time. They're always looking. Their mindset is, how can I make whatever I'm involved in better? The second mindset that I see phenomenal leaders have is this ability to take massive ownership of their lives. So what I mean is, they're not waiting for anyone to tell them what to do. They're always asking, what's next? They're anticipating the next thing. Again, because they're always looking for solutions. They're not just standing around twiddling their thumbs, waiting to be told what to do, asking for permission to live their lives. They're always ahead of the game. They're one step ahead. They're always looking for what's next. They're anticipating what's coming, and they're making a plan for that. Because like we've talked about before, if you're vision oriented, if you're vision focused, that means you're not just reacting to every little thing that's put in front of you all the time, whether that's emotions, emotional response to other people, the stuff of life, which by the way, we're all going through. So we're not just like reactive. Leaders are proactive and they are always thinking ahead. They're always thinking what's next. They're anticipating what would make whatever scenario they're in better. The other mindset that I truly believe that leaders have is the ability to make decisions. They're decisive. They're not wishy-washy or inconsistent, which I've talked about before. But it's interesting, my dad, I come from a athlete. I was an